I've just finished the first season of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. When I think about other anime I've watched and other characters, one of the first things I think about is the highly emotional moments or cool fight scenes. With characters in Frieren, I think about some of those things too, sure, but I also can't help remembering the little things like a character's sleep schedule or perhaps their favorite dessert. Sure, there are other popular characters like Naruto, who we know his favorite food is ramen, or a character like Levi who's obsessed with tidiness, but this is something Frieren does extremely well. By exploring not only major story beats, like Stark slaying his first dragon or the mage exams, but also seeing minor details in the characters' day-to-day lives, it makes the world feel all the more lived in. From only 28 episodes, we have learned a lot about our main cast of characters, so let's start with our elven mage Frieren. Throughout the series, we see Frieren is a mature and experienced mage, but she certainly has a lax side to her. Her apprentice Fern, often needing to take a more motherly role in some situations. This is shown often by Frieren's habit of sleeping in. This even comes up in a few episodes, one of which Fern and Frieren spend some time cleaning up a shipwrecked shore in time for a village's New Year festival. It's on the day of the festival that Fern wakes her up to get up extra early to watch the sunrise. Frieren starts off groggy and claims it wasn't worth the trip out of bed, before it hits her. Seeing the sunset on the distant shore with someone she cares about turns out to be worth it after all. And we see many more moments just like this, both big and small. We quickly learn that Frieren has a love for magic similar to even her own master. She has no desire to learn it for the sake of combat, but for the sheer wonder of it. We see this multiple times throughout the series, like when discussing her favorite spell, which creates a beautiful field of flowers, or some of my favorite moments when we see her open up mysterious chests for a glimmering chance of finding a grimoire, only to be captured by a mimic in disguise, but she still takes the risk anyway. It's moments like these that really make Frieren feel like such an interesting and full-fledged character, rather than a pretty flat character with a couple interesting personality traits. But you can't do a character deep dive on Frieren without talking about her apprentice Fern. Fern, unlike her master, is a lot more type A to say the least. Fern is very careful about spending, tries to be efficient and organized with how the party spends their time, and generally has a very caring nature. She helps Frieren do her hair, encourages her to wake up at a reasonable time of the day, and spends a whole afternoon following fellow party member Stark around just to find the appropriate birthday present for him. But she is also very sensitive. If someone doesn't respect her feelings on a matter, she can become quite broody very fast, barely making eye contact with that individual. This happens with Stark more often than not because they're basically around the same age, but she's not afraid to apologize when she needs to. There's a good chance you've seen some recipes being made on different platforms from Frieren episodes, and there's a good reason for that. Not only does the food showcase the fine aspects of mundane life with some very alluring art, but it also shows off characters even more. Food being a recurring subject in Frieren made me realize while scripting this video that I didn't actually know as much about Fern's passions for cuisine as I thought. Looking further into this, you can see Fern repeatedly enjoying breads and things of the sort throughout the show. Now, this is something I definitely did not catch on first watch, and you kind of have to look out for things like this, but it's something that the writers were clearly thinking about having something so consistent. As for Fern's bigger character traits, an important one to note is that unlike Frieren, she doesn't have that same passion for magic. She is exceptionally talented as a mage, even being able to see the fluctuations in Saria's mana, but she doesn't experience the same joy her master does. Instead, magic is kind of a means to an end. She learned it to help her adoptive father rest easy. She continued to learn it for that exact same reason. This is even brought up in a later episode of the series, and this all ties together when Fern is gifted the ability to learn any spell of her choosing, something that could truly be one of the most powerful spells we've ever seen. She chooses to learn a spell that cleans clothing, and helps doing laundry. This goes to show exactly where this character's values lie throughout the series. Earlier on in the show, Fern almost definitely would have chosen an offensive spell, but instead she chooses something that will improve the party's day-to-day life by making day-to-day tasks easier. But the party is of course not complete without the last member being Stark. Although he is introduced later in the series compared to Fern and Frieren, he certainly is not shy of being a well-rounded and well-developed character himself. Stark is a young and respectful man. In any village he travels, he spends moments of free time helping others. It could be something as small as helping an older lady reach something higher up in a market, or helping a traveler change a wheel on a carriage. This is all to say he is extremely polite. But on the flip side of things, he can sometimes be a little insensitive, leading to some awkward moments. He at times refers to Frieren as an old lady despite her dismay, and when seen surprisingly grabbing Fern to get her attention despite innocent intentions, he ends up making her feel very uncomfortable. But everyone knows he has a good heart and will make up for things in the end. On Stark's birthday episode, he and his master had a tradition of making hamburger steaks as a celebration. He is also seen enjoying his favorite dessert being the jumbo berry special he had as a kid. This once again shows how small likes and dislikes to the show can really help fully develop a character. Although cuisine isn't the only thing that Frieren likes to show off, it certainly is one of the traits that makes characters memorable. We even learn that Stark has a soft spot for drinking juice, but he also likes to stay up late even though Fern may scold him for doing so. Although he certainly has a good heart and an eye for good food, the story takes the most time to emphasize Stark's fears as a warrior. He has trained since he was very young to live up to his brother's legacy. He wants to be a warrior, one that can make his father figure and late brother very proud. He was seen as wimpish as a kid, and that he didn't have the knack for combat, but he put his all into training and the results certainly paid off. As he continues to mature, one thing that continues to resurface is Stark's cowardice. This is first seen when he is tasked with slaying a dragon. Despite promising to assist him, Frieren watches as he defeats the beast on his own, honestly, with ease. He continues to go up against strong opponents, ones who outclass him in both experience and skill, but he decides to face his fears and stand his ground, for both his master and his new friends. Watching through this series really reminded me of a similar viewing experience I had with Avatar. The show features a group of characters that all have fleshed out dynamics with each other. Even a more minor connection like Toph and Zuko isn't hard to imagine as a pairing. And I think Frieren achieves something similar. The way Stark interacts with Fern is just as emphasized as the way Frieren interacts with the world around her. The story takes the time to show us not only huge moments like Stark slaying a dragon or Fern becoming a first-class mage, but also the little things like Frieren's curiosity with mysterious chests, or that Fern likes to have her hand held when she feels sick. And these are all the things that make the main cast feel not only fleshed out, but relatable. Frieren is an extremely powerful and experienced mage, but her focus is on enjoying the small things in life rather than practicing day in and out. This leads to her having small but notable weaknesses like her mana detection or Saria believing she isn't where she should be when it comes to the experience she has. Fern is a hard and focused worker, but this only takes her so far as her passion doesn't lie with magic, which begs the question, what does she search for in later parts of her journey, or is she simply here for the adventure? Stark is a stubborn and powerful fighter, even showing potential beyond his own master, but his belief in himself and overall growing into his maturity makes him a couple steps behind. All these characters are some of the strongest we see in the show, yet they have battles that extend beyond the battlefield, which I think is a perfect representation of a story that starts beyond Journey's End. Beyond that, of course, Frieren has so many other interesting characters to offer. Characters like Ubel and Land, although we don't get to know too much about their personal likes and dislikes, are still strong characters in and of themselves. Ubel has an unshakable confidence in her simple yet effective magic, and will take an interest in others' abilities rather quickly, doing whatever she can to learn more about them. Land, on the other hand, is a studious and careful mage, one who doesn't like to risk his own life, even being careful enough to take the entire mage exam through the comfort of his own home through the help of his cloning magic. But that is pretty much all I have to say on my experience with Frieren so far, and I am extremely excited for any upcoming seasons, especially Season 2, which is coming really quickly. Going into it, having such a lived-in main cast wasn't what I was expecting, but it certainly made for an enjoyable watch. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one.